however many years that you have lived in Kenya, is this unprecedented? Have you witnessed something akin to this, where a finance bill is concerned? I know we had the protests with the last finance bill, but that was heavily driven by the opposition. This appears to be organically of the young people themselves.
Let me tell you, I've never witnessed this before. Finance bills has been there every year in, year out, and I think the first finance bill which brought a lot of attention from the public and so was last year's finance bill. But all I can say, that's why you heard them say, Agwambo, we know what you've been doing, just stay away with us. Eh? So this one, Generation Z, let me say Gen Z, it's something we've never witnessed. It's the first time I'm seeing this. And like he said, nobody expected it will go to this extent. Nobody. Actually, the first time it came, I thought it was just a small thing, and then it...
Let's listen in, CB Warren. When we took those pictures, we're just remembering the images we saw of the police officer who lost both his hands. I saw some photos with the Torres and CS, Fred Muto in hospital with him. He was mentioned yesterday by Embakasi East Member of Parliament, Babu Wino. I mean, would you have the temerity or the inclination to fire a tear gas canister yourself, CPA Warui, after seeing that?
Let me say, they are representing us, but honestly speaking, I've never been, but this time I felt like also joining them. Right? But what I'm trying to say is, nobody saw it coming, including me, and I believe even the ones who are here. Nobody expected this thing would be as it is right now, because even the ones that we've been seeing before, it is politicians organizing it and so and so. But this one, how they organize themselves, how they did it, and how successful it has become, actually it has really surprised everyone. And all I can say, it shouldn't be taken lightly, and it is the high time the members of parliament listens to their people, the government listens to what they are saying, because if this is the first time it has happened and it has been successful as it is right now, I will say successful because we never expected to be this way. So I think it should be given a deeper thought. And it is the time now they should listen to Gen Z, listen to everyone, because I know even other people who are not here, the traders and everybody, they are celebrating seeing it this way. Because I had one of them say, was it yesterday, saying he didn't even go to school because his parents' bank accounts were freezed by the government. You know, the agency notice in taxation, if maybe the government want to get money from you and you're not paying, they put an agency notice where the bank, you cannot withdraw money from your bank. So these people are very, very frustrated, and I think it is the high time, before anything like this happens, the government sits down with people from different departments, different sectors. Give it a thought before you bring it, so that I don't expect us to experience this all. I'm hoping they will act so that we will never experience this in the near future.
CPA Dr. Yaro, CPA Warui says she did not see it coming. Now, with the last finance bill, we had the affordable housing levy, and the argument was this thing is to create jobs. Those measures were put in place for these very same young people we are now seeing on the street. Where is the disconnect?
Maybe most of the guys on the streets may not be able to understand exactly the implications of the finance bill itself and those tax measures, how they are related and the like. There's a possibility of that.
But if we have been contributing
Yes.
to the affordable housing levy,
Yes.
and we're told if we do so, they are going to get jobs, why then do they have the time to be out?
First of all, I don't think that it can just, it is spontaneous that we have just raised, we have just introduced affordable levy last year, and all over there will be a lot of employment for everyone. That takes time. But one thing that you bring it out is that it shows that there's a lot of unemployment, which creates a lot of frustrations in Gen Z and Gen Zs, because young people are staying at home, graduated, and they have no work to do, so they become frustrated. So it really incites or ignites the hidden problems that these people are suffering. Things look very bad there. I can see a lot of.
I saw one of those officers firing, but I don't know whether he was firing a gun or a tear gas canister. It appears that it is tear gas. They are close. I believe that is what Trattoria up
Yes.
there. So that down that way we have the Supreme Court building. So it appears they're trying to access Parliament through the different avenues.
Yes.
But you were talking about the unemployment.
Yeah, I think the whole idea was for these guys, they wanted to occupy Parliament, and it looks like the police are trying to stop them to access Parliament. And police essentially they have been quite restraining themselves. I really recommend that, and it's very unfortunate that a policeman lost his arms yesterday trying to maintain.
So do you feel that they have, based on what you've witnessed today, you feel that they're exercising more restraint than they did on Tuesday?
I feel they're still trying to restrain themselves, because remember the whole of yesterday and today we haven't heard of any protester who has been injured by the police. So in one way I commend them for that, because they're really trying to restrain themselves. You know, it's not easy if you are being provoked like this by people who do not.
But there are those who are asking the question: who is provoking who?
Okay, provoking, what I mean is that, the police, they have to maintain law and order. They have, for example, at the moment, there's no business going on in that streets. You know that there are a lot of business people around there, but all the shops are closed, the business are closed. You will not go the way you want for free. If for example, the way the Gen Z have the right to demonstrate as a protester, I, who maybe not demonstrating or protesting, also have the right of way to go about my business.
Let me invite Robert to come.
The event are trying to protect those guys.
Part of what you hear is when you listen to these young people and what they're chanting, and they're saying Zakayo Shuka, they're saying Wamesalitiwa. Is it a sense of helplessness, do you think, that they're displaying, that they're feeling unheard?
I think so, absolutely, Oliver. This is a sign of deeper issues. And just to give you context on why we are where we are in terms of the finance bill, or just looking at the historical numbers, because every finance bill had a certain target number in terms of the incremental tax we want to collect. The bills that have been released since 2019, the incremental target tax has been between 35 to 50 billion. Come last year, our target was to raise an additional 201 billion. Come this year, we are targeting to raise an additional 302 billion. It is literally moving from a Toyota 110 to a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. It is impossible for an economy to move from a level where we have been to that level, and yet we have not seen a drastic change in the economic environment. The government has really to work hard to ensure that as we try to reduce our debt load in terms of our borrowings, we really do not try to squeeze from an economy that has nothing else to be squeezed. Literally, we are working with a government that is trying to achieve a lot with very minimal that has been done. The construction sector, it's true, when you look at the statistics that are given here, it's a key employer. But what is the quality of these jobs? Most of these people are graduates. If you tell them to go and work in a construction site, they'll actually be asking you, I went to university and I want you to go to a construction site. So the quality of the employment or the jobs that are being...
But I hear them constantly being asked, kazi ni kazi.
Absolutely, yes. But I will tell you, on the ground, most of them will not be very comfortable. I mean, there's the argument that through forward and backward linkages, we'll have manufacturing industries for these construction sites, but it will take time. It is not a one-fit solution. And I think the main issue is we have so many things that are coming at the same time. From July, we have the shift, the contribution, 2.75%. Last year, we had the affordable housing levy. We have the eco levy that is being proposed. We have so many levies in addition to your normal taxes that we call VAT and income tax that are coming in. And the impact of all this is now being felt by business people. KRA is pushing hard for SMEs to comply with the tax invoice management system. They're actually feeling the heat. And this is just a sign and one of those things that have now brought people together to fight for what they have all through felt that the government is not listening to them.
Actually, just to add on that, the
Yes,
government,
Chairman.
it's like the government was underestimating the suffering of the citizens, high cost of living for a long time, and has been turning deaf ears to the cries of the people. And it looks like now people are busting. There's nothing else we can do. We are hungry. We have no jobs. We cannot stay at home. So we have to come out. And so even those guys who have been silent about it get the opportunity now. If a few have decided to come to the streets, we'll join them because of that. So I think it is the right time the government should sit down and listen to exactly the cries of the people.
Speaking of listening, Dr. Kamau, the response, the president's response has been, this thing has been taken through public participation. Your MPs are your representatives. They're called the people's representatives. So he said the input of the people has been taken into account. Is that an accurate, do you think, description of the process?
It is not very accurate because we have heard from the Gen Z and I've listened to them being asked whether they were involved in the public participation process, and they say no. They say no. So usually what happens is that there are people who are asked to mobilize people so that it can happen. It can appear that public participation is taking place. Maybe they are told mobilize 10 people, 50 people, 200 people to meet in a certain venue. Then we will come there, we address, we take minutes, and they will sign. And now that that exercise will have been completed as such, which is just a mere formality. The Gen Z, maybe for them to capture Gen Z, this public participation, they need to come up with maybe an online form where it is circulated and it comes to you specifically. You fill in your details, you say which areas are you not okay with, so that if they use that avenue, they will now be able to say, yes, we were able to do public participation to Gen Z in particular. But if you ask Gen Z to really go attend a certain conference somewhere, that may not happen. That may not happen.
You know, linked to that, CPA Wahui, the part of the concern has been people are like, they need these young people on the streets are saying reject, don't amend, because they're saying they don't know what else could be quote unquote hidden in the document. Does that speak to the accessibility of the finance bill, that perhaps is it too technical? Dr. Kamau called it an omnibus. Is that something, do you think that moving forward needs to be taken into account?
I don't think it's that complicated. Like he said, this is Gen Z. And like he said, maybe they come up with a way during maybe public participation or even on social media pages and whatever, where you can access it and be able to read it, because I don't think it is hidden from anyone. Maybe themselves have not gone through it point to point, because even apart from that, there are other audit firms, big audit firms. They even have webinars, or they even have they even send links where they are explaining it point per point per point. But I think for them, they've not taken time to do that. Maybe during public participation, it can be circulated, even if it's the university platforms and wherever, they circulate it so that it's available to everyone who would want to see it. And maybe in simpler language, I don't know what can be done, because maybe this Gen Z, somebody may not take a document like this, go through it one by one. Sometimes they are clinging to what they've had somebody say. Maybe they had somebody talk about motor vehicle tax and then they cling on it. Somebody talks about health, they hold on it. But even if you ask them, they don't even know where to get it, or they don't even have the document with them. So maybe they can look for simpler ways of how to get to them. Maybe social media, TikTok, wherever, know how you can use the young people who are in the government, or use even the leaders and wherever, to make sure they are able to be circulated to everyone and available to anyone who would want to see it, the document.
So yesterday, one of the young ladies who's really had an impact, Madare Social Justice co-founder, and that is Wanjiru Wanjira. Yeah. But she was talking about, they do consume the news though. They might not have necessarily gone page by page to interrogate these documents, but they do consume the news. And they say, why are you adding on more taxes? And when we look at the news, we see that you want to renovate state houses and state house and state lodges. We see that the deputy president is looking to renovate his office, is looking to renovate his official residences in Mombasa and Karen. So they're saying, oh, then where are the priorities? Is this what we are paying more for, Dr. Yaro?
First of all, Oliver, what my colleague said is quite right. The way the government is trying to increase taxes, the incremental increases in the finance bill is quite ridiculous because last financial year we proposed that we increase by 200 billion and we are unable to meet because as of May, what KRA has collected is around 86% of the revenue. And it means for them to meet that target, they are supposed to collect 400 billion in the month of June, which is not feasible. And then knowing well that, having followed through that, you can say you cannot.
Dr. Yaro, sorry to cut you short. Let's just listen in a little bit, then we'll come back. Dr. Ayer, before I let you conclude your point, I have some feedback for you, CPA Waruri. And the feedback is this, that it is not that they did not have access to the document or didn't understand it. These are the guys who created ChatGPT for the finance bill and did threads to break it down. They are using tech to break it all down. Also, these guys are educated, doctors, marketers, bankers, and the argument here, this feedback is that you're trying to make them out to be ignorant, and they are not. And the protests are, in fact, their feedback to the bill itself. In some weird way, this is their form of public participation because they do not feel heard. Point taken, CPA Waruri?
Point taken. Actually, we did.
Yaro, I had, sorry?
Sorry, we were just saying not all of them actually, because even you are with some here and you can see they really understand the document. We are saying maybe for them who didn't get the document. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Yaro, I cut you short.
Yeah, I was just saying the increase. Now, for example, they said like last year we are unable to meet the revenue target. The KRA has only collected 86%. Between now and June, end of June, they are supposed to collect 400 billion so that they can meet their target, which is almost impossible. Knowing very well this, then you bring another finance bill that wants to raise a revenue of 300 billion. It doesn't make sense. And already the people out there are complaining so much because of the high targets. There's so much pressure on KRA, which is transferred to the business people. That almost every day, KRA officer is calling you or is at your door, not giving you even an opportunity to do business. So the government should be cognizant of these problems. They understand these things and allow people first to trade, allow people to the businesses to grow, and then come for the revenue. Maybe give them 2 or 3 years. Maybe when they are comfortable now, you can come for them very well.
So, Robert, part of the challenge has been, rather the framing around this issue has been either you pay tax or we borrow.
Yeah.
And Kenyans for a long time had raised concern about the debt burden.
Yeah.
And how a child is born already, they are paying for this debt.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is it an either or? Either we pay tax or we borrow?
Unfortunately, it seems to be the case for Kenya. One, because Kenya as a country, we do not have minerals. We do not have oil, like, natural resources basically. Like some countries that in the world that enjoy some revenue from resources. So our options are limited. I think in terms of the key revenue sources, either taxes or debt. A few years ago, we actually graduated from a low-income country to a middle-income country. Obviously, this has had an impact on...
Sorry to cut you short, Robert. Let's just listen into Parliament.
2021, when the Honorable John Bandi nearly killed me in the public gallery. No. Yeah, you are the one who saved me. It is Alice Nganga who nearly killed me. It is the Honorable Alice Nganga who nearly killed us. And if you recall, with a light touch, the Honorable Senator Mudama, as he then was, left the gallery half naked. And the Honorable Boni Khalwale left the gallery at a speed that would have broken a world record. We don't want to repeat that. All the honorable members, now we go back to the bill. Robert Basil, but as I call Robert Basil, honorable members, I have been ordered, I've been requested by the majority and minority leaders that we reduce the time further from 3 minutes to 1.5 minutes. Robert Basil.
Thank you, Speaker. The time is too short, though. From onset, I reject the bill because it's very clear Generation Z, they cannot, or they want to say, elastic limit on taxation has been reached. So we need to listen to the cries of the citizens and do like what Ronald Reagan in the US did. We cut taxes and we cut government expenditure. So, Mr. Speaker.
So, I mean, he's addressing part of what I had asked you, isn't he, Robert? The question of so he's introduced the aspect of cutting back on expenditure. It was at the point you were going to make, because the argument has been either mlipe ushuru, tujitegemee, au we borrow.
And we have already seen the National Treasury sending a statement of the likely impact in terms of if this bill is not passed. Cut in terms of expenditure. That is where most people, probably politicians, don't want to get to, because if we are saying your CDF, their CDF is being reduced, obviously they're not very happy because they're not be able to achieve some of the things they want to do in the rural area. So it's a very delicate balance, I would say so. But for me, actually, I want to look at these demonstrations. This is just a...
Sorry, Robert, I said ambulance there. I don't know if there have been injuries, because it's Dr. Yara who had mentioned that he hadn't had reports of injuries. So he said it's evidence that the police have been exercising restraint, but that is what is happening. It appears it's still around card Cardinal Otunga. The tear gas makes it difficult to see exactly where the ambulance was headed, but there was an ambulance that just drove past. Robert, I have cut you short twice now. I will allow you to conclude your point.
Yeah, so I think personally, I would actually say that whether we pass this bill or not, the government should actually go back to the drawing board, because this is just a sign. And I think this has been triggered by the few sensational tactics that they wanted to attempt. But even if we reject this bill, tomorrow the youth will still not be happy. There are unresolved issues that the government has to address. So I think for me, this is just a sign of deeper things. And whatever the outcome is today in the National Assembly, really the government has to address the issue of the youth and the Gen Z who are complaining of other issues which may not have come out clearly when they were trying to air their views. So this is just a sign for me. Whatever the outcome, there are deeper issues that need to be addressed. Otherwise, this country will not be headed in the right direction. If this is an expression of the frustrations of the youth.
Is this then, Dr. Kamau, an appropriations issue? Because we've had things such as budgeted corruption, and we had the Auditor General say, you have allocated money for my salary. This is not how much I had. We have had the former President Uhuru Kenyatta say in the last 2 financial years, he was allocated $1 billion shillings, he says, or by estimate. They have only seen where 28 million about has gone. So where did the rest of the money go? So there seems to be also serious concern around the issue of budgeted corruption. Is that, if not maybe interrogation of the finance bill, where the focus should be in terms of making that more transparent?
That's true. The problem comes when the development budget is underfunded, and the bulk of the major component of the budget goes to funding the current expenditure. The development budget is very important because this is where we do infrastructure, we do roads, we do dams, we do water, internet connectivity, and it's only through doing that that we are able to increase the productivity of Kenyans. So whenever we continue to spend so much on recurrent expenditure, we are not likely to build our nation. And it is said, and it is empirical data, it is a fact that more than 80%.
So Robert, if you'll allow us, let's listen into what's transpiring in Parliament, and we'll be back.
Mr. Speaker, I will not point of order. Take your seat. Jalango, carry on. Honorable Angela, I encourage you that yesterday when you spoke, the House listened to you. What is it about? Order, Angela. Angela, you know, Standing Order 91 is a standing order you use to challenge a colleague who is on the floor and has said a statement that you think is not factual. Order. The member of the floor, Honorable Jalano Vlangata, had not uttered a single word for you to challenge him on any fact. So you are out of order. I ruled him out of order already. Jalano continues.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. First of all, I reject the Finance Bill 2024. Immediately, immediately touched around everything that touches the common person. That is the M-Pesa, the cars, the parts. And I looked back and saw the whole generation in Langata out here having their voices so loud. Even after the amendments, I had to make the choice that I've made today. Now, out here is the Gen Z generation, whom I talk to every day. I interact with them on Twitter, TikTok, and everywhere. When most of you will have gone back to the villages, we will be with them here in Nairobi. The question will still be there, and most of you know I'm a friend to the president, and I spoke to him, and he knows very well that this is my stand. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Katana. Honorable Katana. You are being grossly disordered. Please exercise some decorum. Not just you, everybody else that is either cheering or jeering. We want to have another end to this. Member for Kuresoi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to keep my voice on this important bill. I've been waiting for it since morning. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I support the bill 2024-2025. I'm supporting the bill, Mr. Speaker, because of a number of reasons. One of the reasons is the increase in CTF is the increase in CTF by around 50 million. This CTF, Mr. Speaker, is a fund which touches all corners of our country.
And before we listen in on Parliament and what the debate there is, Robert, I had asked you the question, is this more about a question of Kenyans wanting to know where the money they already pay goes?
That's true. So it is Dr. Kamau.
Sorry,
Yes, it's more about the recurrent expenditure, and that the amount that we are spending to service the debt is actually more than 60% of the revenue that we are collecting in a year. For instance, last year we collected about 2.1 trillion, and more than 1.2 trillion actually went to servicing the debt. So if 60% is going to servicing the debt and actually not paying the principal loan, is just the interest on loan that we are paying to a tune of 1.2 trillion. And we have had even the CS for Treasury saying out of 1.2 trillion that we will be paying as debt service, 785 billion is interest that we are paying on loans that the government has acquired locally. So basically, it is an issue that most of the revenue that we are collecting is going first to service debt. Number two, it is also in the public domain, according to the data information that we have received from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, that 47% of the revenue that was collected last year was used to pay wage bill. And actually that is against the mood of the Constitution, because the Constitution says that not less than that 5% of what is collected should be used to fund wage bill. So if you take debt service at 60%, you take 48% of the debt of the revenue collected going to wage bill, then already we have consumed everything that we had collected. So for the development expenditure and even the money that we are supposed to devolve to send to the county governments, then that amount of money we have to borrow. So basically, that's the place that we find ourselves in, that we are spending so much on debt service, which is again a recurrent expenditure. We are also spending so much on the recurrent. The reason I'm saying it is the debt service is a recurrent expenditure because it is not the debt itself we are paying. This 1.2 trillion is interest on the loan. So at the end of the day, there's very minimal amount of money that is left for development agenda, and every other time there is a shortage in revenue collection or even the borrowing capacity of the government. The budget that gets a hit is the development budget. For instance, this year, the budget that is being discussed in Parliament, we are talking about an expenditure of 3.9 trillion. If we can work backwards, we start by first removing 1.2 trillion that will go to debt service. From 3.9 trillion, we are left with 2.7 trillion. From 2.7 trillion, we remove 400 billion that will go to county governments. 400 billion is equivalent to 0.4 trillion. So from 2.7 trillion, we less 0.4 trillion, we are left with the 2.3 trillion. From now 2.3 trillion, we remove 1.6 trillion that will go to recurrent expenditure. So what is left is 700 billion. And this 700 billion is the one that is supposed to go to the development budget. And if we are not able to collect 3.9 trillion, either in revenue and borrowing, then the budget that will get a hit is the development budget. For instance, this year, the year that is just about to end, we had allocated about 700 billion to go to the development budget, but only about half of that has been spent for development activities. The rest has gone to fund the recurrent expenditure, especially when they did supplementary budget 1 and supplementary budget 2. Initially, the budget was anchored at 3.6 trillion for 2023-2024, but they did supplementary budget 1 and 2, and they pushed the expenditure from 3.6 trillion to 3.9 trillion. And to make the matter worse, the expenditure was increased. And on this other side, the revenue that they had targeted, they have not achieved it. So what has received the hit is the development budget. And that is what we are supposed to invest more in, so that we can be able now to create employment for this Gen Z and other unemployed persons that are in Kenya. They keep saying that the rate of unemployment is 5%. It is not true, even if it is Kenya National Bureau of Statistics that they are giving those indications. Because when you employ a master graduate for 10,000, for 15,000, that is underemployment, and it should be considered as not employed.
So, Dr. Kamal, let me allow the other panelists as well to give their concluding remarks, because I would like to ask now to head to Parliament, where those who will be voting are seated. CPA Worry, your last thoughts.
What I can say is, from what we have seen, it's something we've never seen before. The leaders, once you go to people and ask for votes, the way you want them to listen to you when you're borrowing or when you're asking them to give you the votes, have the listening ear and listen to them, because this affects everyone and they know better than us. You cannot overtax people to prosperity as a country. So if the leaders are listening to their people, we will not be where we are today, because these members of Parliament are the ones, they were all involved, they were involved in all these processes. So if they took their position as people leaders, we will not be where we are
today. All right, SCPA Dr. Yaro.
Yeah, thank you, Oliver. What I want to really say is that the Kenyans have made their point. They are well informed. These are good signs that we are really maturing and maturing democracy. And the leaders, from the responses you can see in Parliament, most of the leaders have actually noted the points that the Kenyans are making. And I think at the end of the day, they will make a rational decision and decide what's the best way forward.
So you say they're listening and will make a rational decision.
Yeah.
Robert, your last word.
Thank you. Oliver, we asked me what's happening, whether it's a bad thing. I think not. As a country, we have demonstrated a sense of majority. I think there are many countries in Africa where this kind of thing cannot happen. So the fact that our youth can actually come out, hear their sentiments, and the government, on the other hand, is listening. Whether they act or not is another issue, but the fact that this can happen, and to a large extent, a peaceful manner, it's a good sign. What the government needs to do now is that realize that this is not a demonstration of just the finance bill. It's deeper issues that are simmering, and people are expressing their frustration. They need to sit down, and before they release anything else going forward, they really need to think through the impact on the youth, because these are the ones who are now going to determine the next leadership in the coming years.
All right.
Thank you.
Dr. Karam?
Thank you very much. I just want to say that we are now in new dispensation, that it is not business as usual for the government, so they should also rethink their strategy on the way they are governing the country.
All right, that was precise. Thank you very much. And I thank my panelists, CPA Wangeshi Warui, FCPA Dr. Abdullahi Yaro, Robert Maina, Dr. Alex Kamal, sorry for the mix-up earlier. We continue to keep an eye on the events in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Bungoma, Kisii, Meru, Kilifi, Kakamega. The Occupy Parliament protests have been held nationwide, but let's see if it has had an impact on our parliamentarians.
Mr. Speaker, we have a responsibility at the House to create employment for the people who are out there demonstrating. Mr. Speaker, we also have a responsibility to make sure that we give the right information to the young people of this nation. In as much as they elected us and we listen to them during public participations, we also have a responsibility to tell them the truth. Mr. Speaker, for the people who are lying in Gatondo Hospital and for the doctors who are going to treat them, I vote yes. Mr. Speaker, for the tea farmers who are in Gatondo now and other places, I vote yes. For the JSS teachers, I vote yes. For those people who are guarding us and the police officers, I vote yes. For the members of KDF who need to be paid salaries, I vote yes. For the people that we need to create employment and to create manufacturing in this nation, we are asking that we introduce excess duty on products that are getting from other countries so that we support our economy. Those people who are out there need jobs. In fact, those people who are being mobilized because they do not have jobs. We have a responsibility to create jobs for them, Mr. Speaker, and we shall not create.
Thank you. Member for Kajiado East. My. Give him the mic. Okay. My, use the next mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the chance to contribute on behalf of the people of Kajiado East constituency. I rise to oppose the finance bill for 2024 because the bill has excessive taxes on common wananchi. Mr. Speaker, as you can see, our economy has not improved, and we have about 16% of our population living below poverty line. And the reason is because of bad economy as well as corruption in this country. By taxing them more, I feel like it's putting a burden on wananchi, which we should be doing more to help them than hurting them. Mr. Speaker, we also look at the fuel levy of 9 shillings. That is another burden to wananchi. I can imagine my people commuting between Kitengela and Nairobi and back and forth paying more for transport because of the increase of the fuel levy. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose the bill because it is not friendly to common wananchi. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Moses Kirima.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this bill. Mine is that by the time when this bill came originally, it was too bad and it was punitive to the people. And my people instructed me that if it was to be as it was, I was meant to oppose it. But when I came and raised the issue with the chairman of finance, Mr. Kimani Kuya, He told me that there are going to be some amendments, of which actually what I was told to oppose, the bread, taxation, bondas, maintenance essentials, cooking well, and avocados, and the rest, the agricultural outputs. After the amendment, I don't see any reason to oppose it. So I thereby support it with amendments. But if there are no amendments, no way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Ken Chonga.
Thank you, Speaker. From the outset, Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose this bill. Mr. Speaker, by the mere fact that the drafters of this bill were thinking of taxing bread, milk, rubber, it means that they've never had a good intention for the Kenyans. This bill is obnoxious, is diabolical, this bill is pungent and choking to the lives of Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, I was surprised yesterday, the majority leader here said that Naiba's gone down, that the packet of maize flour right now is trading at 100 shillings. In which supermarket can we go and find the one packet? Not unless he has a supermarket that he can direct Kenyans to buy from. Finally, Mr. Speaker, by mere fact of adding 9 shillings to petroleum products, it is implying, therefore, the entire economy is falling down. Everything in the economy depends on fuel, and for as long as you have the price of fuel, everything is going to spiral up. Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose this bill. Thank you.
Janet Sitianei. Member for Turbo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I stand to support this financial bill 2024, Honorable Speaker, with amendments. Honorable Speaker, I support this proposed bill as one of the revenue-raising measure with proposed amendments because it's going to give Kenyans an opportunity to receive their due development. They are going to get electricity, the schools infrastructure, bursary. Farmers are going to get subsidy, increased milk prices. The sugarcane farmers are going to get their pending arrears. School-going children are going to be fed. Elderly people are going to get cash transfers. Honorable Speaker, this bill has also listened to proposals that are going to reduce what the Wananchi were worried about. The VAT on sugarcane transportation, the removal of 16% on bread, removal of exercise duty on protect me, Honorable Speaker. This bill proposals are going to see that VAT is removed on bread, there is exercise duty removed on money transfer, there is also VAT removed on sugar.
Yes. Engineers Zengu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I have waited from yesterday, but I want to say from the onset that I raised to oppose this Finance Bill 2024, and there are many reasons why I am opposing it. But one of the reasons is that it is increasing, or it is putting a levy on clinker, which is an important component of cement. And
yes, Honorable Juliet, what is it?
Speaker.
What is
Speaker.
it? Order.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I wanted to seek your indulgence, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, to those who are in Parliament, there is time for everything.
Order, members, I can't hear clearly. Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, as you're aware in Parliament, there is time for debate, and then there is time for voting. Mr. Speaker, some of our members here on my side took early lunch. They are taking lunch by 10 a.m., I think, ugali and nyama.
and they have come here so that their vote can count, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, having debated this bill now extensively, I think we should go now to do our constitutional duty of voting, Mr. Speaker, so that Kenyans can know which direction we are taking, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence to call the mover to reply, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Junet. Let Zengu finish. I had an intention of giving Ross Museo. Then I'll call the mover to reply.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the Finance Bill 2023, it is reported that the road maintenance levy was not collected enough because of increment in the price of the petroleum product. This year, Honorable Speaker, the same mistake is being repeated. We know that from Finance Bill 2023, the price of cement went up, the price of steel went up because of the export promotion and investment levy, which is unnecessary because it is meant to promote monopoly in the industry. The same people that produce cement are the same people that are producing steel, and that is why the cost of construction has gone up and being a deterrent to a lot of Kenyans from constructing their houses or their property. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I want to reject the proposed bill totally and as a whole. Thank you.
Women Rep Muranga. After that, Rose Museo, then the mover be ready to reply. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I rise to support the bill, and I will vote yes for the bill. Voting for this bill, we are voting for real issues, Mr. Speaker, not for the negative things that have been said in the media to hit emotions. Mr. Speaker, voting for this bill is voting for 6.8 billion for COVID relief fund. Mr. Speaker, voting for this bill is voting for 46,000 JSS teachers to be who are in internship to be put in the payroll to be employed. Mr. Speaker, we are here to tell our brothers from the opposition that we don't need to hit emotions, and we know who are the sponsors of the ongoing mandamano, and we reveal it after the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice onto this. And I start by saying that I reject this finance bill 2024-2025. And Mr. Speaker, you can see from what is happening in the streets of my constituency, the picketing and the protesting that people are doing on my constituency, because this bill is not undergo due public participation. And that is why I'm saying if they listen to the people in the first place, they should listen again and they take the bill back to the people. We reject it and we ask for it to be withdrawn, be taken to the people, because the people are the taxpayers. They are the people we are subjecting to these taxes. They should be heard. And then, Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask the government side not to pretend that they are doing Kenyans favors by introducing these amendments. Actually, these amendments were not there in the Finance Bill 2023. It is not a favor you are doing the people of Kenya, and we are asking the people in the government to listen to the common mwananchi. I've done so, and that's why I reject this bill. I've also listened to my side of the divide of the government, which does me a coalition with the most professors who can never be wrong on this finance bill. And that is why I reject this finance bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa nafasi hiyo umenipatia. Mimi natoa sauti yangu kupinga mswada huu wa fedha wa mwaka 2024 na 25. Kwa sababu watu wa Makueni wameniambia kabisa mswada huu hawezi kukubali jinsi ulivyo. Na nasema hivi kwamba Wakenya wametoka katika janga la corona ambalo limeweza kufanya wengi waliishiwa na biashara zao, wengine hawako kazini, na maisha ya Wakenya yamekuwa katika hali ya juu sana, na serikali haijafanya mikakati maalum ya kuweza kuboresha maisha ya wananchi wa Kenya. Tungekuwa katika nyumba hii tukiongea jinsi ambavyo tunaweza kuwasaidia Wakenya waboreshe maisha yao. Nasema hivi ya kwamba kupata pesa ambazo ni za kuweza kusaidia serikali kuendelesha mambo yao, kuna njia nyingi. Kizungu kingi ambacho kimezungumzwa na mwenyekiti wa bajeti, naomba watumie, kwa maana watumie mbinu hizo, wakae chini kama kamati na kuangalia ni jinsi gani wanaweza kuleta fedha bila kumuumiza mwananchi wa kawaida. Tukiangalia mambo ya soda ambayo yamezungumziwa sana, niseme ya kwamba naomba kabisa, jinsi nchi zingine zinapeana soda bure,
Yes, Honorable Kimilu. Honorable Kimilu.
Speaker, is it in order for you to deny me a chance to reject this finance bill? Because I've been here since just a day, and you not give me any chance, but I reject this bill, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kimilu, order. Take yourself the answered. Yeah. Korea Kimani.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. When I watched the debates yesterday and today, I celebrate the democracy that our forefathers fought for. That Kenyans across the political divide can sit down for hours on end and discuss issues of this country. And as it has been said, the conversation on our country is no longer about our communities, it is about of how to grow our economy and our country. When we have differed on the how, not on the what we need to do as a country in order to become a growing economy. But Honorable Speaker, sadly, this debate has been skewed in a different way, especially by our young people, that is introduction on digital content creation. Honorable Speaker, this is far from truth. In fact, the bill proposes to exclude